Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Bruce Starr show here. I am excited to have on my guest. She is one of my favorite people. Every time I talk to her, she knows she's one of my favorite people. And today I have Marla Martenson, the Beverly Hills mystical matchmaker on with me. Her talents are widespread. She's not just one of Beverly Hills best matchmakers, but she goes the route that I just absolutely love, and that's the spiritual route. Getting to the spirit. Wow, look at that crystal skull.
Whoa. That's right. Get into the spiritual side with the love and matchmaking, right, Bruce?
You and I know that is the absolute key to happiness. People can go and try and do this and do that and manipulate this system and manipulate that system and do things with this money and have this job and have this car and this boat. But it doesn't always work. And even many times, and I love having this conversation with you, Marla, even many times when it looks like it's working, two people are together, they've looked at each other, they've considered each other, they've added it up. It looks like this could work out, looks like it could be a pretty good deal. And then certain realities in life kick in. You know, I call that body trading.
Yeah. Well, you know, you and I have both been married a long time. I think you've been married longer than I have. How long have you been married, Bruce?
Well, I've been married 13 years, but together with the same woman 20 years, New Year's Eve.
All right. That's wonderful. Yeah, for me and Adolfo have been together 17. And so that's my third marriage. Okay, 3 times the charm. And I had other relationships besides them. Hey, I'm a Gemini. There's 2 women dating here. You know,
you got wow.
It. Cool. Woo! but oh, Ava Gabor says hello.
Yes, hey, I'll put her up.
Oh, all right. People can pop in. I'm not used to this platform, so that is so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm glad you can see when people say hello. And
yeah.
If people have something fun to say, or if you have a question, you know what? I didn't introduce you properly, Marla, because you are the Beverly Hills matchmaker, and you are someone who has had just about more experience with dating and daters and fixing up single men and fixing up single women. And so if anybody's listening and you want to ask a question of either Marla or myself, you feel free to go ahead, but let's get right into it. I'm curious because we end up doing a show together like every 6 months or something like that.
Which is going to be more in 2018. It's going to be more often than that now.
Good. I am psyched because, again, you're one of my favorite people and one of the great people I love working with. So what are you seeing anything different at all? You know, we have a new president, and I know California is like New York. You know, they have their point of view on this president, and it's quite vocal. People in show business are quite vocal about their views about this president. Have you noticed anything in the last 6 months or a year that's ringing different about dating and daters?
Yes, this is the first time in my matchmaking history of 16 years that I've had people say, I won't date I won't date a Trump supporter.
Wow.
I don't want to date a Republican. I don't want to date a bleeding heart liberal or whatever they call it, each other. And I think, gosh, this is really a shame. I mean, we really do have a lot of anger. I had to take a Facebook fast for a while. I could not look at my news feed last year when all the hateful comments were coming. And you know what Marianne Williamson says, you know what Tina Louise Spalding, who channels Jesus and some other, you know, we're woo-woo, so I love the channeling. But they say, you know, if you are upset, if you are angry, if you're watching the news. So of course, you know, however you feel, whether you like the president or not, we know that the mainstream media hates him and wants to take him down. So every single day there's another horrible story. So if you want to buy into that, if you want to watch that and believe it and fuel the hatred, you know, it's not good. I mean, I try to send love and light to our White House, I pray that the people in charge will be doing the highest good for all of us, peace, prosperity, tranquility, instead of just automatically going to the negative. So I don't like that. Look, every single president who comes, there's a side that's not happy, right? So this is what we have. So let's support and do what we can emotionally, spiritually, energetically to uplift each other. And it's funny, I'm out here in LA, and so I'll even get guys who will say, oh, I don't want to date a vegan. We've got a lot of like spiritual woo-woo girls here who do yoga, who are vegan. I'm a vegan, my husband's not. He's not so happy about it, but we got together anyway. So it's like, if politically you see differences, maybe you can talk about it and ask, instead of calling people names or hating them, say, well, why did you support this person? Or why did you think Hillary would have been a good candidate? Why did you think Trump would have been a good candidate? Why did you think Bernie would have? What's your views? How do you feel? Why? And then you can kind of maybe talk openly and hear each other, instead of just say, oh, that person, they're crazy, or they don't know what they're talking about. So
what I hear you saying is, before it used to be, there were so many different rules and regulations to who someone could see. I'm just going to ramble. They had to be rich. They had to be beautiful. They had to be big-breasted. They had to be small-breasted. They had to be natural. They had to be, I don't know. Let's say there were 20 different factors that someone threw at you. And now on top of that, it's can't be Republican, can't be Democrat. Oh my God. I mean,
right on top of it. I know. And it's so sad. I love people, and it actually hurts me to see like Democrats and Republicans just separating in like two different species or something that can't, they're going to, like the Romans, they're going to go clash and go to war. It's crazy. We've got to be united and love. Like you said, love is all there is. So now not only do I have to look for big-breasted women, but I have to look for big-breasted Hillary lovers or whatever. So anyway, yeah, it makes it a little more challenging, but look, matchmaking's never been super easy. But when I get somebody in a beautiful relationship or they get married, there's nothing more rewarding.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so wonderful to hear. I asked you, is it okay to just call you the Beverly Hills Matchmaker? Because I know you're into so many wonderful things that based on personal growth and higher consciousness and spirituality, which makes you just about the perfect person. Well, I could believe that anyway. Okay. So tell me now, what have you been able to bring to the table with all those deeper aspects of understanding higher consciousness and spirituality? How are you able to be even more helpful to your clients than you were 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, I really started taking that deep dive in late 2013, which I wrote actually a book called The Buddha Made Me Do It about it. Yeah, A Field Guide to Enlightenment. It's a spiritual memoir about my deep dive into it. So I was always into metaphysics, and my first metaphysical book was The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. Somebody gave me this book when I was 27 or 28 years old. And it's all metaphysical. And that's when I started my journey. But in 2013, me and my friend Julie started going all over Los Angeles, taking all these classes on, we went to channelers and mediums, and we learned pendulums, and we used the talking board and crystals and all of this stuff. And I became a Reiki practitioner and crystal healer. And what I've been able to do now is I can send remote healing. Edward says, how about the universe arranging the connection
Etherically?
Etheric. Okay, I'll talk to that. But so I can actually I've had my male clients want healing sessions. So they'll either come to me in the office, or I'll give distance healing. And energy healing is really great, clearing out the old stuff. So I do some different healing modalities, which I've been able to combine with the matchmaking, which is really great. And I'm going to roll out a coaching program in 2018. So I'm working on that now. So I've got so much to go on. So Edward, about the universe arranging the connection. Well, yeah, I mean, I totally believe that fate, your guides, your angels can arrange you meeting someone. It was interesting because after my father passed away in 2001, in January of 2001, and I'd moved back from Chicago to LA, I had to give up my job, my apartment, everything. I was just devastated. And just 5 months later, 4.5 months later, I met my husband. And, he stepped in, very strong personality. And because of him, I met a friend of his who hired me at a video dating service. And from there, the rest is history. So things are orchestrated, by the universe. Even finding a pet. When we moved into our house from an apartment in 2011, people were saying, now that you've got a house, are you going to get a dog? Are you going to get another dog? And I said, you know what? If the universe wants me to have a dog, I'll be walking down the street and the perfect dog will be just lost walking down the street. It'll be a female, perfect size, perfect personality and everything, because I wanted to be real careful which dog I picked. What if it had a bad personality? So 3 weeks later, I was walking down the street and my Macy was standing on the street corner.
Wow, really?
So the universe is conspiring with us, and you can use that in your advantage to find a great mate. But people like Bruce, who's a coach, he knows some of the pitfalls. The universe can be conspiring, but if you're not ready, if you're a mess, if you're haven't cleaned out your old baggage, if you're not happy in your body, if you're unhealthy, if you've got a lot of debt, if you're bitter about your past exes and all that, that can be a pitfall for you, and you can miss that great opportunity, or you could blow it on the date. So Edward, do we really have free will, or are we acting out an agreed script? Of course we have free will. What do you think, Bruce?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's not that there's some sort of, we're puppets on a string, but listen, we chose when we came into this lifetime to take on certain learning lessons. And I'm getting so clear about the lessons that I've taken on, and they're not all pleasant. But the tougher, the tougher your soul is, the tougher the challenges that you can meet. So it's not so much about what happens to us. Of course, it's about how we respond and how we react to what happens to us. If we buy into it, that this world is a nasty place, or if we're victims, then we're not going to have a great response to the things that we, probably programmed to happen in our lives for us to learn the lessons we need to learn. So it's really about remembering who we are, remembering that we're God's children, remembering we've been here before, probably hundreds to thousands of times. And what really helps me is to not get carried away with ourselves. That in the whole overall scheme of things, we are just a speck. We are just a small speck in the whole cosmos of how long we've been here and how long we're going to be here. So sometimes we get a little carried away with ourselves.
Yeah.
And we take things a little too seriously and go into the victim role. And when we do that, that's when it's good to see people like Marla who can remind you that this is all predestined in a lot of ways, and it's just up to us on how to react, so that, because we can either skyrocket from learning mistakes, or we can either start going in a downhill direction.
Yeah, playing the victim is so typical. I mean, I used to do that. I was so codependent and playing the victim, and the guys are jerks. They broke up with me, and blah blah blah. And they're not. It's who we're attracting, how our frequency. The frequency. My teachers, spiritual teachers, Zarathustra, who you've interviewed, taught me that it's our frequency. If we can raise our frequency as high as possible, things just start coming in. And how do we do that? And he teaches us to do that by being quiet, by sitting, by meditating, and your frequency will rise. You can also do it by dancing, by spending time in nature with your pet. You're always happy with your pet, right? They're never criticizing you. They're never bringing you down. So when you're with your pet, you're always super happy. So anything you can do, crystals can, kind of help you with that. I'm a big crystal fan. And I always have my black tourmaline next to my computer. And that is very grounding. You got it too. Yeah, it protects from the electromagnetic frequencies. It also protects from people, maybe jealous people or psychic attack. It's an all-purpose stone. So
yours is bigger than mine.
I got a big chunk here. I've got some small pieces too, and so that's it. But I've been working with Nigel a lot lately.
So anything like tangible that's come of working with Nigel?
Oh yeah, you want to hear a wild story? All right, this is wild. Okay, so we just had a full moon, but the full moon before that, before the other night, is when I found Nigel. I went to a party I told my friend Julie, who's in the book. She's my sidekick in the book, The Buddha Made Me Do It. She's a celebrity ghostwriter, and she lives near me. And I said, hey, Julie, let's do something festive for around Christmas time. And so I said, I got an invite to this woman's house. Her name's Gary. She's a numerologist. I get her newsletter. You know, she's nearby. So we stopped in. It was like a little holiday drop-in open house. And we come in, and she's got all these, she also sells crystals. And so she had all these crystals set up on tables and stuff. And I said to myself, Marla, you don't need another crystal. I've got so many, it's ridiculous. I don't even use them all. But I was walking around, and then I see Nigel sitting there, and his name wasn't Nigel yet. So I see him. He's the only crystal skull there. And I was like, and even look at the top, how you can see inside. And I was like, oh my God, oh my! I picked him up, and I said, wow, what is he? Clear quartz crystal and agate. So then I looked at the price, and I put it back down. And then I said, okay, you don't need any. And then another woman walked up and picked him up. And inside I'm like screaming, that's mine. Put him down, put him down. And she put him down, and I snatched him back up. And I said to Julie, I think I'm going to buy him. She goes, you are? And I said, I have to have this guy. So I took him home. It was a full moon. So I saged him to clear. And then I put my intentions in. I said, Nigel, I want you to help me with opening my third eye, my psychic abilities, my intuition, and manifesting. Then I put him outside under the full moon on a table with some other crystals for like 3 hours, let the full moon charge him up, brought him back inside, meditated with him, and then went to bed, set him next to my bed. Now, during the night, I felt my body vibrating really hard. And when that happens, that means I'm going to astral travel, right? So I pop out of my body. I'm up in the stars, and then I see through my third eye the words hi, H-I spelled. Then I'm back in my body. I'm laying on my side. I hear in my ears a song, like I'm singing, like a man, and it's song and music. And I thought to myself, there's no radio going on. This is in my head. And I thought I might be catching some radio waves, because there's radio waves going through the air. I thought I must be tuned in frequency-wise to a radio station. Then I see through my third eye some sacred geometry, and then I see some faces, sideways, profiles, and forward, and then I see hands waving like this. And then that was it. So it was the third eye I've been working on a lot. You know, Nigel helped me with that. Astral travel, seeing sacred geometry, seeing faces, hearing, that's all third eye pineal gland stuff. So now, if somebody would have told me this story a few years ago, 5 years ago, like if you would have told me that, Bruce, I would have thought, I like Bruce, but he's a nutcake, you know. Yeah, sure. What's he smoking, you know? But until it happens to me, it really, I mean, I'm not the kind of person to make up, you know, stupid stories. So that's what happened with Nigel. So I really meditate with him every night. And that was pretty mad. For the first night I got him, it was so powerful.
So for the people that are listening to this, and I know Ed is very much, you know, of a higher nature, and a lot of the people that will be listening to this are of a higher nature. What I want to do is I want to find a way to bridge the gap. I want to find a common ground where, just like you just said, if you were to hear me talk like this a few years ago, you'd think I was nuts. Well, I want to find a common ground, but better yet, I want people to hear actual value in doing what you're doing, in going through what you're going through. How will people benefit from going in a direction of all these incredible investigations like what you've been through? How can they, how can this make a difference in their lives?
Yeah, well, what I find is often we're looking for things outside of ourselves. So I was always looking to be happy with an, cute guy. I mean, I actually got married to a French chef just because he was French and adorable, like he was super cute. It was the worst match, and I was with him 7 years. I cried most of it. So looking outside of yourself. So once you start working, going on that spiritual path, working with, a benefit of opening your pineal gland and your third eye, which, if you don't know what that is, we actually have a little pine cone shaped gland called the pineal gland in the middle of our brain. And that is what Descartes called the seat of the soul. That's how, if you ever have experienced a psychic or a medium, that's where it tunes. It's like the antenna to the universe. You can see in other dimensions and stuff. And what it does is it makes you realize you are a part of the universe. You are connected, and you are valuable. You are special. You are magical, and it centers you. So, for instance, I'm a Gemini. Like I mentioned, I used to love going out to parties and crowds and talking. Now it's like it's kind of overload. I like to stay home and meditate, go do some yoga, have one-on-one connections. This political climate, like I said, I had to take a Facebook fast. You kind of start detaching from anything negative. Gossip will make you feel yucky and dirty. You want to be more connected to everyone and bring light and love. And I just think that will also bring you a great partner, because you're going to be on that higher frequency. Like I said, instead, when you're stuck in the muck of the 3D world where everybody's panicking, where the news tells us to be afraid, there's always disasters going on, trolls on Facebook, people tearing each other down, you'll start detaching from that and see the divinity in you and in others. And so that's my spiel on that.
Absolutely. I want to go a little deeper into that, because I know what's missing in so many people right now is that ability to really move ahead and leave the past behind. And I know there's got to be a lot of people out there that are finally saying to themselves, it's not really working to follow the masses. It's not getting me anywhere. I'm getting more alone and lonely to keep on, following the masses. I want to talk more about how people, the benefits and the values of turning to spirituality in day-to-day dating. You talked about it briefly, but I would really like for both of us to talk more about how this can downright benefit people if they would add this other part of their lives. When they say that we're only using 5% of the intellectual brain, everybody's heard that. Well, have you ever asked yourself what's going on with that other 95% that's not being used? Well, we need to start developing that other 95% so that we can have a much fuller experience and return back to our hearts. So let me start with you, how you think that we can do that.
Right. Well, it also helps in when you do get into a relationship, in keeping it going, because we have a very high divorce rate. I mean, it was always like at 50%. I don't know if it's more by now, but it's like you get with someone and then it's like, well, their flaws, it's red flags, flaws, this, that, let's just move on to somebody else or cheat on them or whatever. It's kind of a throwaway society. So I've had my ups and downs with my honey. We don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but for me to, and it's like this year, we're like, this year, my husband was so cute because he goes, 2018, we're going to be bragging about each other. And he's been making more of an effort to connect even more, because we butt heads a lot. We're like Ricky and Lucy. He's the Latin musician who doesn't believe in angels and other dimensions. It's like, you can't see it, it's not there. And I'm like, oh yeah, I astral traveled last night. And he's like, woo. So me coming from my woo-woo space, I've got to look at him and look at his soul, look at who he is, and not just the human stuff of the egos, what he's thinking about certain things, because that's just his personality. So am I going to go deeper and really honor who he is as my partner. And so the same goes if you're just dating. We discount so quickly. If somebody goes on a date and says, "Oh, the guy's shoes were scuffed up, or his car was dirty, or he said this and that," we've got to give people a little more of a break, give them more of a chance. They may be nervous. They may have a text that doesn't sound interested. People start going off, "Oh, he must be dating someone else. He must not be interested in me. He must be this, that." And people are going off on spinning in other directions on what the scenario is, and it's not even correct. So it's like being gentler with ourselves, gentler with the other people, because these are behind a screen. If you're on Match.com or you're swiping left or right on Tinder or whatever, Bumble or whatever these apps are, these are people behind those photographs. So I just would love to see a little bit more tenderness with each other out there. We're all looking for love, and we want the same thing. Yeah, there's some jerks out there, they might be raunchy or crass, just pass and don't even get involved. But for the most part, people are really just looking for that love.
And you mentioned something about, it's a little bit different from what we were talking about. You mentioned something about texting. And I get into some big battles, not really battles, of course, but I get into some big battles with people who are saying that, listen, it's the way of the world. Just stop it, Bruce. Just stop it. It's texting. It's going to happen. And I can't help but think that texting is about the most unromantic thing that you can do. Every step of the way, if you're texting each other, there's this whole tracking thing. Where were you? Why didn't you return my text? Where have you been? Even if you're like 3 or 4 days into the relationship, this whole thing starts where you're tracking each other, and something can't be right about that. And plus, it is so unsexy. It is so unromantic. And I strongly suggest, yes, I know everybody's doing it. I strongly suggest that you do not make texting a part of your early relationship, because I think it just takes away the mystery, and it's not something that's going to help the relationship at first. If you can track each other, where were you, all this kind of stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, recently I have a guy back east, and matched him with a girl. He's in Pennsylvania. She was in New York, and she said something about, "Oh, I don't think it's a good match," because he was talking about asking me about exes and all of this, and I said, "Oh, you guys had a phone conversation?" He goes, "No, we only texted." And so then I said, "Well, what?" And then I asked him, I said, "Why are you asking in a text to a girl, I just gave you the number, these questions?" And he says, "Oh, no, we were texting for an hour. It was an in-depth conversation." I said, "You were texting for an hour asking about exes and different situations in a text, a first communication?" I said, "You blew it. I mean, that is just, you don't do it." So you text, because nobody's going to pick up the phone from the first time. So you're going to text and say, "Hey, excited to talk to you. When can we meet?"
Right.
And then program that person's phone number in your phone so that when they do call, you know who it is. Because we don't pick up phone numbers we don't recognize with all the marketers. So, and then have a conversation. And if you can, meet as fast as you can in person instead of this, because then you start getting in these conversations, this ex problems. Don't treat it like a therapy session either. Stay really upbeat. And if you are doing long distance, like so many people now with the internet, hey, you can do Facebook chat, FaceTime, Skype. You can have a date where you see each other and sit down with a cup of coffee or whatever and talk. You see the mannerisms, you see the humor, you see them, and it's a better indication than some cute quips in a text or a phone call.
Yeah, I mean, we need to keep the personalness of it alive. I really think the texting is making it mechanical. And yeah, it's, my belief is so many of us have gone from here up to here, and texting works great up here. Mm-hmm. Texting, not so much down here. And personal communications works good for here. And I understand people are afraid and people want to make sure, but
somebody said the other day, what we don't hear that word courting anymore. What happened to courting? Somebody that's.
Well, I'm writing a book about that. And in my book, it says men were raised for 20,000 years, 10,000 years to find that very special someone and pursue them and try to win them over. It started with Fred Flintstone looking around until he finally found his Wilma. And he had to work hard to win over Wilma, but we're born and bred with that. If you take that away from us, people don't realize that they don't feel alive unless the man can pursue the woman, not stalk, but pursue the woman and try to impress her to win her over. And I know that's gotten so muddled in the last few years with Starr.
It has gotten so muddled. And impressing doesn't mean bragging about how many cars you have or how much money you have or dropping celebrity names, or that's bragging. Girls hate that. So if you're a guy listening, that's not what it is. We don't like it. We want to know that you're successful because we want to know that we'll have a nice lifestyle and be taken care of. But we hate it when the guys are bragging about how much money they have or sending a picture, standing in front of a fancy car or, and that's the thing about text too. Women really feel like unappreciated, like a piece of meat, pardon the expression, when guys say, hey, send me another picture, send me some more pictures of yourself. They don't feel valued. They don't feel, what if he just wants to see, how I look, wants to see my cleavage or whatever. So be very careful about that, about how people feel. We're more than our exterior.
Well, that's for sure. And I think that, people like you and I have to keep reminding people of that because it's very, very important. I mean, I started the conversation by saying that people can go through what they're going through and even stay together and even get married, but that doesn't mean that they have a foundation, a relationship based on love. And I think that's why we have so many bloody divorces now, is because that foundation of first getting together is what you were mentioning before. It was, did they get together because he drove the right car, because he lived in the right neighborhood, because he had the right job and made the right money, because she had the right breast size, and because of the sexuality? Is that why they got together? Is that where the agreement came from? And when that happens a lot, when someone comes along, here's the problem. When someone comes along who has a bigger breast size, who's making more money, who's driving a newer and fancier car, and if that's what that relationship was based on, someone can change their mind. And when
I'll tell you a quick story. When I was working in Beverly Hills, and now I have my own company and I work out of my home office over here in the Valley at home. But I worked in a Beverly Hills service, and the girls would come in, and a lot of them would say, "Oh, Marla, how can I find a nice guy like you've got? You have your husband. I want a relationship like you." And I said, I don't know if I said it or I just thought it, but honey, you would never even have accepted a date with him because his car was he used to call it, when I met him, he had this car he called the Predator. It was this red car. It was kind of falling apart like a 15-year-old car or whatever. And he'd pick me up in it. I didn't care. I liked him. I was not there for to sit in. I'd gone out with guys with Rolls Royces and limousines. I'd been in fancy cars. That doesn't make you happy. A beautiful car is nice to look at, but that's not what we're looking at here. So I thought you wouldn't have even accepted a first date with him because of his car. And then he sold the car 6 months later and got a nice car. But, it's like that was the furthest thing from my mind. But I've had girls say, okay, I'll date. I would like giving me their list. I'll date a guy. Well, a girl really said this. I'll date a guy if he drives, I don't know the numbers of the BMWs, there's SL or this, that. And she gave me some numbers or letters. And I said, what are you talking about? She goes, no, I date him if he had this model. But if a guy's driving this model, I don't want to meet him. I was like, get out of my office. Like, You deserve to be alone. But this is what the level of at some people are operating on. And Bruce and I want to shift that in people. And I know probably if you're watching this, you're not operating on that level, but there are people operating there. And that's what I talk about, being stuck in that 3D ego-centered muck. And we want to rise above that and get out of the, not, like following like a sheep, and go within and find out who you are. Love yourself. Love yourself. You're not your cellulite. You're not your extra 5 pounds, your gray hair, or the wrinkles that have come up here that I've got to Botox out next month. That's not who you are, all right? You are a spirit, a soul that came here for this experience, and just, experience everything that you want to experience your way, your creative, beautiful way, and the right people will come and resonate and come to you. But don't try to twist yourself into that societal pretzel that they want you to think that you have to be accepted.
So you've got someone from the East Coast and you got someone from the West Coast saying the same exact thing. And we don't want we don't want anybody to change if there's not going to be a huge payoff for it. We want you to look at the different ways of doing things because there's a huge payoff for it. We want you to be happy. We want you to be in love.
Edward says one needs to determine whether it's chemistry in a relationship, and that can only be determined in person. Well, what do you think? Well, I think you could develop something if you're long distance over Skype or something. I mean, you could tell the chemistry, but it's true, we are ruled by hormones. That's why we make such bad decisions when we're younger, getting into relationships, because we're not in love. It's just oxytocin or hormones, because we are animals. We are part of nature. We're part of the earth. We're driven by, hormones. Yeah. Flooded. That's why, like, after women are like over 50, menopause, we feel just much more calm and like we don't give a shit, because we're not driven by those hormones anymore. We're just like, we want what we know what we want. Whereas, like, I was so scattered in my 20s and 30s, jumping around from guy to guy, and low self-esteem, and did he call? He didn't call. I must not like me. And it was just, I looked a lot better, but I was in an emotional state that was not better. So it's interesting. Why can't we have kind of have those looks with that emotional maturity? That's kind of a cruel trick nature plays on us, right?
Another trick that got played on us was that guys are so ready for sexual fun from the time they're 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. They can get this thing happen to them in the middle of school, and they're ready in their 20s. And then as the years go on, the women are growing that chemistry that makes them more aware of their sexuality. And the men that chemistry is getting lower and lower. So there's a reason why, the universe plays this kind of game. Maybe there's a meeting of the chemistries at about 32 or something like that, where both the chemistries are aligned, and maybe that's the people's primes, when the best time to get married, when they're both feeling their oats at the same time. But it is true, and when you say oxytocin, the first person I think of is Dr. Pat Allen, and I know that you know of Dr. Pat Allen's work. And she used to say that if a man doesn't know how to make love by the time he's 50, he turns into like a rock or something like that. He better learn by the time he turns 50. And the other thing that we didn't talk about, which is way too much of a discussion, is on top of all those other things, what kind of car, what kind of house, what neighborhood, how much money, what the job, breast size, waist size, sexuality, all this kind of stuff. The other thing we didn't talk about is masculinity and femininity in relationships. That's a whole nother show.
We'll do another show on that one.
We're going to do that with your show in a week or two, aren't we?
Okay, that sounds good. That we're going to do that one. Yeah. There's so much to talk about, and you can talk it to death, but if you just want to boil it down to a bouillon cube, it's love yourself, have self-esteem, have compassion for the other people out there, be discerning, and let us know what happens. And exactly. Then Edward, Would you comment about the larger number of spiritually
women
aware men? Yes, very good, Edward, because as a matchmaker even out here in Los Angeles, woo-woo land, there's more women who are into this stuff. So like me, I'm a vegan. I drink green juice. I go to yoga. I meditate. I play with crystals. I'm into all this. Now, if I was single and trying to find a man, I'd have, what I would do is go to these places that I go to, these expos and these classes and things like that. But I find a lot of those men, they're more into like the more down to earth stuff too. So if you're a woman, you're looking for a high powered man, some of the women want a billionaire, multimillionaire, mover and shaker. Those guys are typically not into the spiritual stuff like the girls. So it is kind of hard. And so I have these high powered guys, the doctor, I have a surgeon, movie producer, real estate developers. And I know there's one guy who's a surgeon, and they tend to be more scientific. So that it's like they're not into the spiritual stuff as much. It's more like what's proven, what can be seen. And so I try to match him with these gals because they want a gal who's slim and beautiful and sweet and down to earth. Well, that's the girl that might be on a juice fast this week. That's the girl that might be at a yoga retreat. And then he says, well, I'm not into that spiritual stuff. So yeah, it is. And then I had a guy who was a vegan. He had made a lot of money and was able to spend his days surfing down in Laguna Beach. And he was into meditation, and he wanted a girl like that. So I had to try to find that, which there were a lot of more. It was easier for me to take on a guy like that to find those girls. So it does seem it's a little disproportionate. So the guys are just, wouldn't you agree, Bruce? I mean, spiritually awake and aware guys, although there's a lot, it seems like that's more of a woman's arena.
Yeah, and mostly because if you've fallen for the deal that money rules everything and money rules all, you're going to go after the money, and that there's not going to seem like much of a payoff for spirituality. And what I have found is many people don't turn to it until something drastic happens in their lives.
Right.
They get ill. They lose their moms. They lose their dads. They lose their wife. Their child gets sick. And then they all of a sudden are searching for a higher meaning in life. I say, don't wait for that to happen.
Right. And you can still make a lot of money and be spiritual. I still have my IRA and my Fidelity account, and I, checking it, how much interest did I make? So, we want to be secure. We have to use money in this world to survive. But I notice what feels really good is downsizing and decluttering I don't want a bunch of crap. I don't want a lot of material responsibility. I like to be able to take trips and go have experiences and spend time with people. And I think as we get older, we really we really get into that. But makes it simpler too. And if you're looking for a mate, and do you have room in your house? Do you have room in your closet? If you'd meet somebody, could they move in with you? Is there room in your drawers for their stuff? So you might want to energetically get things going. Florence Scovel Shinn in her book, The Game of Life and How to Play It, has a story about a woman. She says to the woman, came to her and wanted a husband, and she said, dig your ditches, as they say in the Bible. Get ready and buy a nice cozy chair that your husband's going to sit in. Set a place at the dining room table for him. Act as if, get that energy going, clean out your closet, get your body ready and shape, feel good in it. And that guy will show up like that because you're ready.
So right. And I want to add one other thing. Women need to leave a space spiritually in their life for a man. Because a good man, again, we talked about players, gamers, and we're not talking about that now. Right. A really good man wants to come into a woman's life and pursue her and win her over and want her to become enamored by him. But if a woman is so busy if she's so busy with her career and so busy here and so busy there and 6 cats and 2 dogs, if she doesn't leave room for the man, he's going to think to himself, there's no room for me in her life. I think that that's super, super important.
Well, that is something that we've come across now in the last, 30 years, 20 years, is I have these high-powered men who want to meet a woman who have time for a relationship, who can they go on trips, somebody who could travel with them. But the thing is, these women have to make a living. They're alone. They have to pay their bills. So a lot of the women are working their butts off, and some of them do have high-powered careers, because what else are they going to do? So the guys have to realize also, if a woman is really busy, it's just because she's taken care of herself. So hopefully, if you want a woman like that, you can, some of the guys will say, hey, once we're together, she won't have to work, or she could work part-time or do whatever she wants. But they've got to realize that, because I've had problems with that with clients that are upset that the women are so busy. But on the other hand, the women, are you busy just to be busy, or are you carving out some time for that special guy? And talking about femininity, I'll just add one thing, because we're going to do a different show on that. But guys, some of my guys will say, I won't date a woman attorney. I won't date any attorneys, because they have that masculine energy, and they'll come to the date combative. They'll be arguing. They're too like a man. So I say, if you are an attorney, congratulations. I think it's awesome. But go home first after work, maybe take a bubble bath, get a manicure, pedicure, put on something, feminine, a little perfume, and take off that attorney robe, cloak, suit, whatever, and come as a beautiful feminine woman going on a date.
Perfect. Perfectly put. Marla, give me your email address so if people want to find out about you. I want you to show your books again. If people want you to represent them in the matchmaking world, I want people to be able to reach you.
Put up my website, marlamartenson.com.
Okay.
Yeah. And I also do energy healing. I'm a crystal and energy healer. I can do long distance. I give angel readings. If you want an angel reading, it's very inexpensive. You want one? I'll give you one. I channel my angel. I type it all up, and my angel Mirth gives you a message of what you need to know now, and people love it. I get a lot of. So you can go to my website. It's under Work With Me. You can get on if you want to sign up for my newsletter, which I send out once a week. There's a lot of uplifting, motivational stuff on there and freebies, but you get a free ebook and a free guided meditation from me. I also have a new Facebook group called Love Yourself, Love Your Life with Marla Martenson, and we talk a lot about uplifting things there. So that's a group. If you're kind of a magically, spiritually based person, you'll love that group. So yeah, please connect with me. And my book, my latest book, The Buddha Made Me Do It, A Field Guide to Enlightenment. It's a spiritual memoir, kind of like an Eat, Pray, Love, Bridget Jones's Diary. Do you have this? Did I send you this book?
I'm going to look. And if you did not send it to me, I want an autographed copy.
Okay. You're going to love it. You're going to cry. It's really funny, too. It's really funny book. And then I did Diary of a Beverly Hills Matchmaker, my memoir about.
Book to show? Do you have that?
I don't have. No, I've got it. But I'd have to get up and go get it.
Okay,
I should have had it.
No problem. No problem.
But so Nigel and I look forward to connecting. Thanks, everybody.
So great to have you on the show. Love working with you. And I'll be doing your show on the 17th, I believe. And it's always a lot of fun.
And I've got a new podcast, you guys. It's called The Mystical Matchmaker, and it's on iTunes. If you download podcasts, I just did my second episode today. And I had a woman from Florida, Joanne Leo. Do you know Joanne Leo? She's a numerologist and psychic. Fantastic. I had her on today, but you can subscribe to it on iTunes. It's every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific. But The Mystical Matchmaker, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, super. Well, again,
a lot of stuff going on, you guys. So create. 2018 is going to be a powerful year. It's very spiritual, very powerful. So stay in your power, get your goals straight, and if you want to meet somebody, hold that intention. And you can do it, and you can do anything that you want. No, it's not themysticalmatchmaker.com. It's marlamartenson.com.
Oh, all right. No, I already put that up there, marlamartenson.com.
I did purchase the domain for Mystical Matchmaker though, so I haven't done anything with it yet.
Okay, cool. That's a great name. And again, I love doing shows with you. Thank you for taking part of your day to talk to people and talk to me and joining me in my show. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you on the 17th of this month once again.
Thank you, Bruce. Love you. Thanks for having me. Bye, everybody.
God bless. Love you too. Bye-bye.